The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Boy, that thunder actually fits in tonight here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Down at the compound, down at the harbor. Boy, I'll tell you, our weather up here at the harbor, I tell you what, the summer is long gone, fall is long gone. It's cold. I'm running all the heat all through the compound to keep it warm. Chilly last night, wouldn't you? Like you wouldn't believe. Now, James is telling me where he's at, and where are you at, James?
I'm in the Midwest in a little old state called Ohio, and yesterday it was 86. About 75 at night. Today it was 90. Tomorrow 91. 91 next 2 days after that. And hot, humid, and it's like it's summer.
Wow. And big extreme one from the other. I tell you, normally down at the compound we would be still, in the upper 60s, mid 60s. But I'll tell you what, it hasn't been that way, and it's looking to get colder as the month moves on to Halloween. And speaking about Halloween, the last week of the month, we're going to have some great guests on our show talking cryptids and monsters and scary stories on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Hey, again, a big shout out to all the truckers out there that listen to the show. Without you, we wouldn't be where we're at today, and I want to thank you. You can find us at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Scroll down at the bottom of the page. You'll see the player. When we're on live, it's on live. Or you can find us on speaker apps, or you can find us on iTunes, iHeart, TuneIn, and all the other major apps. Plus, depending on where you're at across the country, you'll find us on a bunch of radio stations, and we're hoping to get a lot more. That's the next thing, James. I got to get that figured out on the website, because I'm learning how to do the website all by myself, and I tell you, it's like hours worth of work just doing what I'm doing, that let alone have to create a new page to list the radio stations. But that's a very important thing to do.
Oh my! Just the thought about doing that gives me anxiety. I don't know what it is about computers and technology, but it just stops me in my tracks. So I don't know how you do it. Plus, all the other things you do. You're a one-man band, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I can tell you. When you call up when you have a computer problem, like Skype or whatever, you freak out more than I do. I just sit there and go, well, I guess I'll wait till my wife gets home and she can figure that out. I'll just move over to a different computer. I got enough of them in here.
Well, I can't. It baffles me that 50 years ago, the computer the size of my house, we could send a man to the moon and back perfectly. But they update Skype or Windows or something, and it throws the whole thing out of whack, and I got to try to figure out what the problem is. That just baffles me.
What I hate, not just Skype, Windows 10 too. Yeah, sometimes they'll update, right? And all of a sudden you go to use your program, and then your program that you normally use is locked up. I use Speaker app, for people can chat with me, and it puts me on iTunes. But then I use a commercial piece of software simultaneously that feeds out to, the servers, that goes out to the radio stations through a company that supplies to the radio stations. So I'm running these two things constantly. Plus, I got two Skype computers, plus, for the music and for doing the news and all this stuff. I tell you what, I need more than two eyes.
And here's the other factor that goes into this. The timing of their updates. It's usually right before you're going on air or you got to do something important. Have you ever noticed that also?
Well, I make a point. I have the computers on all day, and I make sure that all the updates are done. But then all of a sudden, some weird update with Skype will all of a sudden, just like 3 or 4 minutes before airtime, will start updating, and they're going, oh my God, what am I going to do? Or, Windows starts updating, and you can't stop it because it's one of those special updates. It can really cause a mess. That's why, like when Sam was over here, who, again, a shout out to Sam. He runs a station in Clearwater, Washington. It's a community station. It supplies, an area of the town around 250 people. I do want to do a shout out for him because, without him, those people probably wouldn't even hear us out there. But, I tell you, if something happens, I just roll my chair over to the other table and I can just do what I'm doing. Maybe not as easy as as this, setup is, but I can still get on the air and, interview and do my show.
Yeah. Anytime I see that word update, I become like a frog and I just tighten up, so to speak. I mean, I just have nightmares with that word. I hate it.
And tonight we got a special guest on at the top of the hour that is so famous. If you go on the Travel Channel or any of the channels, cable channels out there, is Ken Gerhard. He is a expert in cryptids and all that stuff, and he's been on such major shows out there. So we are so happy to have Ken on here tonight. And, before that, we're going to talk about our wacky stories, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience, believe it or not, about a Bigfoot back in, early 2000s. And you know what? You can believe it or not believe it, but I can tell you, the friend that was with me was a medical doctor who had just finished his internship. His father at the time was a Superior Court judge in Pierce County, Washington. His brother is a famous criminal attorney up in Pierce County, Washington. So, we both saw something, and I guarantee you it was not a bear. And we'll be talking about that right after the bottom of the hour, after the news. Again, a big shout out to all the radio stations also that carry Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. Between the stations, the internet, and all the truckers, we're doing really good. And one last shout out, Tom Davis, that was on last night, our guest. I tell you what, his music really rocks.
Yeah, he's got some catchy tunes. I really like that Disclosure song. I think that's a real catchy tune.
Oh, yeah, about UFOs and disclosure. Oh, yeah. Well, in the news, 13 people escaped death as their car is plunging off of the side of a mountain, only to die after when they get hit by a semi-truck.
Oh, my goodness. That reminds me, back in I was like 12 years old, and we lived I lived next door to my grandfather, and a carload of teenagers been out drinking and partying, and they was all high and drunk, and around midnight, and there's a real sharp turn there on the farm, and they rolled the car out into the field, and it was upside down, and I remember there was 9 people in that car, and me and my grandfather pulled them all out, and we saved them. As soon as we got them all out, that car blew up, man. That was a miracle, and a couple of them really got messed up bad, but that's a shame. They got away, and then they got hit by a truck. That's just bizarre.
Yeah, well, that's, some of these mountain passes, they go around windy curves and stuff. They probably were standing where they shouldn't have been standing, and here came a big semi and plowed into them. You know
what? I just got to say something. That reminds me of that movie, Final Destination. Like, you escape death, but it still finds you. That's just weird like that. You know what I mean? You ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah. And
that's just weird.
Yeah, and the second movie of that whole series is just as scary and crazy and all that, too.
Nope.
But, in the news, up in Canada, in British Columbia, a lake called Westwood Lake, guess what a fisherman caught?
Oh, Lord, I'm afraid to ask.
A red belly piranha.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, and the wildlife authorities came out and warned people, that sometimes these fish can survive in the winter, depending on the winter, the conditions and stuff like that. But could you imagine, even one piranha, let alone, and this was not a small piranha. They showed a picture of it. I guarantee it was like about a 6-incher, and those teeth, how fast, a piranha can strip, flesh off of a cattle or a human or anything it falls in or steps into where they're at.
Yeah, I've studied a lot on piranhas, and them red belly ones. Sometimes they can get big, and then black ones. But the natives down there, their teeth are so sharp. They actually take the jaws out and use them like for razor blades to cut things and stuff. I mean, they're no joke. Now they usually don't attack things unless it's bleeding or something. But either way, and they they're like skulls. I've seen them eat a whole chicken like in no time flat.
Well,
but that's weird. That's weird to find a piranha all the way up there.
Well, like in Brazil and Argentina, and a lot of what they do is the cattle people. They'll sacrifice one or two cattle, cows, because it's not even you have to bleed; it's making noise. So, they let a cow start crossing the river, and they don't even get more than about a foot or two in, and they're gone. I mean, they're stripped down to nothing before, you could light a cigarette and take a couple drags.
Yeah, they're pretty efficient. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, that's one thing. I would never want to get ate or eaten by a piranha. But you know what? The Wildlife Authority said, well, probably what happened is that somebody released a pet, which is illegal to have. The piranhas are illegal to have in the lake. But the problem is they can somehow cross breed with other, species of fish. So who knows? Put it this way, if a fish has better teeth than me, I don't want to be in that lake.
Yeah, and you know what? Nature has a way sometimes with a lot of species that they don't even have to mate. They'll become pregnant just by themselves. It's a weird thing that nature does sometimes, and maybe that's what happened. God knows. Let's hope not.
I'm sure glad we're not like birds, because, a bird can go between a male and female switch.
Oh, Lord.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know
that. Yeah, birds can switch, at least like parrots and stuff like that, can switch from being a male to a female or a female to a male. So.
Oh, my goodness.